Hello and welcome to another chat on the Change Exchange. The Change Exchange. We talk about changes in life, moments of change, decisions, changes that life forces on us, and how that affects us. And I get to talk to wonderful people. And today I'm very happy to welcome a good friend of mine, Kim Nicholas. Kimmy, I'm so happy to see you on the other side of this picture. We know each other well, Kim and I. We're friends, and at a different time in my life, in a different incarnation at the Carte Blanche, you trusted me with some very painful and crucial stuff. So thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Rida. Thank you so much for asking me. I'm quite honored. When I saw the list of people you interviewed, I was like, "Whoa, am I part of this list of people?" But I think also just having sat around a table with you over the years, and obviously people know me as Kim Cloete, but I think you got to know me as Kim Nicholas back in the day. Um, just having journeyed with you as a friend over the years, and
Yes.
you have been a very good friend to me, in fact. And somehow you always, your timing has always been quite impeccable, knowing when to pull me in and have a chat.
Well, talking about life changes, you started out studying accounting. How come?
Yes.
Was acting ever part of the picture?
No, acting was never part of the picture. I was quite a bit of an introverted child growing up. I was a bit of a bookworm, very much an academic. My great grandfather, Peter Frederick Jacobs, taught me to read at the age of 4. He was very much about education. And I was one of the first children, great grandkids in our family to be accepted to university, coming from Bonteheuwel. So I got a scholarship to study accounting at UCT, and I was very numerate, and I loved numbers. I loved accounting, and I got accepted to do this amazing course. And I was going to be an accountant. I wanted to do forensic accounting. That was the dream. I was always very creative as a child, and I did a small little thing, a drama program that Tully Peterson and David Kramer did for kids from disadvantaged communities over a span of 3 years, called Music Active. But my parents were not very encouraging where that was concerned, even though I showed a lot of promise. I was never allowed to audition for the professional shows. So accounting was where I was headed. Yeah. So that's how I ended up
But
studying
then
accounting.
after 2 years, you had to give it up because you also had to work. You were looking after yourself. And we've talked about it, that people often think that celebrities, in inverted commas, must have had an easy life, come from privilege. You didn't.
No, I didn't. So when I was 19, because of my situation at home was quite strained, um, I realized that if I didn't make a very drastic decision, that my life was headed in one direction and one direction only, and that was devastation. And I had to make a call, and that call was to leave. And the only way I could leave was to leave without consent, and that was running away. And so at the age of 19, I met some people who were wolves in sheep's clothing, but they served the purpose at the time of getting me out. And I wrote letters to my best friend and my mom and some family members, and I explained to them the situation. Um, and these people offered to fetch me. I packed a bag, and I left my family home, which was devastating because I was very close with my great grandfather and my brother, my baby brother, who was 8 years younger than I am. And it was a very hard decision, but I realized that was the only day that I could leave. My mom was invigilating, my stepdad was at work, and that morning he decided not to go to work. So it became incredibly difficult, but I had to plan leaving days in advance. So I knew that the moment I left, I literally could just grab. I knew what to take. It was already preset. It was like a movie. And I left home, and yeah, and I was working at Ratanga Junction full time. So I would study in the morning from 8 until about 1, 2. I would report to Ratanga Junction. I was a retail manager for some of the stores there. So I would work until about 9, 10 at night, get home at 12, back at campus at 8. And so my life went on for about a year, and it was untenable. It really was untenable. I was burning the candle at both ends, and I was burnt out. I was burnt out. And one of my lecturers called me in, Jenny Christie. Yeah. And she just said to me, Kimmy, you've got to make a call. Yeah. You can't do both. You can't. And I could not work. So I had to put my studies on hold at the end of my second year, and I continued working. Yeah. So no, it wasn't easy. 3 taxis.
Sure, but those are two huge life decisions to make before you're 21. And in both cases, as you say, you had to just take absolute responsibility for yourself and know that these are the circumstances. I have to make a decision. Sure, it's hard, for such a young person.
Yeah, I had to grow up quite quickly because, I was, as much as it seems like I was quite cushioned. I was never allowed out. Could never have boyfriends, was never allowed to go out on my own. Um, I grew up old. And I think also because of my exposure to books, I grew up old and wise fast. But I was not prepared for the world out there. I was very innocent. I was very innocent, and I trusted people because um, I always believe in the good of people. I still do. At the age of 42, I still do believe in the good of people, until they show me who they are. And then I go, okay, cool. Now I believe you.
And the next quite dramatic change was you were in a relationship with an actor, Randall, if I'm right.
Yes.
And you followed him to Johannesburg, but that was also a sudden and crucial decision. Drastic.
Yeah. When you put it into this perspective about change moments, and I often say I've lived a much fuller life than most 42-year-olds. I understand now why, because I've put myself into these massive, big change moments so frequently in a very short amount of time. So I fell in love for the first time after I'd run away. About a year after I'd run away, I met this amazing man. I had moved from retail. I was full-time at Ratanga. From retail, I moved up to administration. And Randall was an actor that used to play on Egoli. And I used to watch him as a teenager. Beautiful man, beautiful actor. And all the girls had a crush on him. He was from Bishop Blavis. And he was working for an ad agency at the time who was working with our company. And I was a data capturer. And the girls were all in a toestand. They were like, oh my God, this guy's coming up. This actor. And I'm like, oh, okay, this actor, act cool. And he came straight to my desk and he said, and he just had the most infectious energy, greeted everyone and specifically greeted me. And I was like, whoa, hey. And at the time I was quite instinct injured. I was vulnerable. I had gone through massive abuse, having left home, having divulged facts about my abuse to people in the park, to women in the park that had now shared this very, very, very intimate details with people I don't know, and basically told people that I had fabricated the whole thing. So I was in a very vulnerable space in my life. I had no friends, couldn't see my family. I was excommunicated from everything. So I was very alone at the time. And when this man walked into my life, it was at a time where I was bare. And I think he saw me. He was the first person to sure, yes, see. Vat jy my nou terug, Ruda? Sure. Yeah, he was the first person to truly see me in a very, very low. I was being sculpted at the time. I was in the fire pit, sculpting, being sculpted, and I fell in love with this beautiful soul. And I did. I followed him to Joburg. 6 months, about a year after we started seeing each other, and I couldn't believe my luck. This guy could have any girl, any girl. And he was so interested in this person who loved books, who was a nerd, who loved Alanis Morissette, who comes from Bonteheuwel, who ran away from home, who has this world of baggage on his shoulders. But he used to say, you know what? Shoelaces make you happy. I just want to be around you. And about a year after we started seeing each other, he got an offer. Siewenderland started, and he got an offer to go back on screen. And he was gone for 6 months. We had a long distance relationship. He came back. He said, look, they want to offer me a full-time gig. I don't know what's going to happen. I said, I'm coming. I have nothing here. If you're not here, I have nothing. I can't see my family. I have one best friend here, Dylan Chetty. I'm coming. And within and so I was, at that time, I had advanced from admin to finance in Ratanga Junction. And at night, I would moonlight at Ocean Basket to make extra money, packed up my apartment, got my license. my instructor, my driving instructor said, I don't think you're ready to do this test today. I said, I am doing this test. You are booking this test for me. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. And I passed. And I got on a bus with my tote bag and the hundreds and the few thousand rand that I had saved from waitressing at night. And I came to Joburg thinking I'm going to finish my accounting degree to be with the person I love. And I left my family and I came to the big city, not knowing what was waiting. Sure. Yeah.
And so how did you get into arts and entertainment? Because you were then still working as a financial person. You also found a job here in finance and accounting.
So because Ocean Basket is a massive franchise and we were very well trained at the branch we were at, I came straight to the one in Melville just to get myself going. And then a place called Broadway Dance opened up with Cinda Etok. She came back from New York and she opened up this beautiful place on the precinct opposite Spa. And I thought, ooh, lekker, I'm going to teach Cape Town jazz because people here love Cape Town jazz. And I'm thinking I can do this. And when they saw my CV, they said, oh, but you know everything about IT and accounting and administration, and we don't know anything about that. Don't you want to run the desk? And so I ended up implementing all these systems for them. And I basically ended up running I ran the dance studio, and through that I met a lot of artists and actors, and I even met my best friend there for the first time, Quinny. And in fact, Ruda, I think you came there once or twice as well. I don't know if you remember that.
Possible. It's many years ago.
Yes. But because Randall was in the acting fraternity, we went to a party in Linden, I think, and there was a wonderful woman called Anna Rousseau, and she was a researcher for ETV. And we were chatting, and you know, when you come from a death space, like I had occupied for most of my life, everything excites you. You take nothing for granted. Everything is beautiful around you because you've been deprived of it for so long. And so I had an energy about me that drew people. They didn't know why, but but there was definitely something. And Anna and I started chatting, and I said to her, so this, because now I'm looking for work while I am also, I had no delusions of becoming an actress at all. And I said to her, listen, so this presenting thing, it was the time when Simunia Grooves was really big, when the Grahams and the Rowans and the Claires were all, it was massive. They did all these promos and everyone wanted to be a presenter. And I said to her, this presenting thing, I think I could possibly do this. Thinking side gig while I finish my degree. She said, actually, you know what? I think you could really be good. I gave her my details. 3 days later, she calls me. I'm in Cresta. She says, I need you to come for an audition. My heart stops. I say to her, I have no idea what to do. I don't even know what that means. What must I do? What must I do? She says, just be yourself. I said, what part of myself do you want? She says, the one I met, the one I met on Saturday. I'm like, okay. Went to the audition at Red Pepper, the old Red Pepper Studios. And 3 days later, I was presenting for kids TV, Crazy. And I was still running the dance studio. And
Kimmy, but tell me that first moment in front of the camera. What did it feel like? Did you immediately know that I can do this? I can connect with this dead thing in front of me.
Yeah, it was the most natural thing for me. It was quite bizarre. Nothing about presenting scared me at all. There was nothing about it that scared me. It was the most natural thing. Obviously, technically, I had to learn a lot of things. Yeah, but nothing about it scared me. And it became really natural because I have a photographic memory. I could learning links was one read and then we go and then we're done. And so I was like, this is not so hard. And then my favorite thing, I've got to chat to people about things that are interesting. You see, how cool is this gig? This is awesome. So I quickly fell in love with work.
And being on stage, how did you get into serious acting? Because I've seen you once, just among other things, on a stage at a festival doing a one-woman show, which was one of the most intense things I've ever seen about abuse. That is a completely different world from chatting to people on camera.
See, that was a journey. That was a journey for me. Finding acting was quite, see, I don't want to sound esoteric now, but I don't quite know how to say this. Acting came to find me. I resisted it for a very long time. It's like a calling and you go, no, 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 no. And then you have no choice. And the guy who found me was, ah man, we lost him. We lost him last year. Excuse me. Gerrit Skoonhoven. He was a magnificent human being. He looked like the guy from Back to the Future. Boskrillare. And there was a series that Chris Foster wrote, Plek van die Vleisvreters. This is about 2004, 2003. And Marius from Thespian said, so now I'm presenting. Now I'm on CakeNet. All these things are happening.
And you're making decent money for a change, I hope.
I'm making decent money. It's my, I had lost Randall in all of that. My first year, he dies. I'm lost. I don't know what. I don't know who I am. He's gone. I'm alone in the city. And it was just when I landed my first big CakeNet gig, Tia Tia, multicam. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I come back to Joburg. can I do this? I'm traumatized. I was there when this happened.
Kim, it was such a beautiful time in your life with this wonderful relationship, and it was all going so well. And then there was the robbery and Randall was shot. How did you react? How did you come back from that?
Oh, I think so. A week before he died, I landed my first multicam show for CakeNet, and he was so proud. He was so proud. We were buying Christmas presents, and he ran and he was screaming in the shop. And he was just larger than life. And going down for his funeral, I was obviously, because I was there, I was spatially traumatized as well. I couldn't be alone in a room without having a panic attack. And the thought of coming back to Joburg was unthinkable. But it was the only thing I had left. It was really the only thing I had left. And I remember how his response to it and how hard I had worked and how far I had come and just how much faith he had restored in me in our short time together. And it would have been such a disservice to our time and our love for each other to now stop and give up. And so I came back to face the monsters. And what I found here was family, people that I still call family. And when I started my career properly after his death, I did it with an energy that I think scared a lot of people and surprised a lot of people. Because when that is all you have, you operate on a very different level. And things that are important to most people become insignificant to you. So ek het baie vinnig groot geword en baie vinnig wys geword in daai tyd. So that's why I came back. I wanted to honor him through carrying on, and not just carrying on, but making magic. Yeah.
And but let's go back to acting and acting on stage, especially.
So late Gerrit Skoonhoven was the director who found me. I was called to do an audition for Plek van die Vleisvreters, and I said no. Chris Foster wrote this for specific people. Randall, having been one of the characters he wrote a character for, called Randall. Dawn Matthews being a character he wrote for Dawn Matthews. So they wanted me to audition for Dawn's character. And I said, no, I'm not an actor. It's like calling me to surgery to cut, and I've never cut before. No, I have respect for what these people do. I lived with Ivan and Vanette at the time, who are thespians, and it was like being at university. So no, I'm not doing this. After 3 calls, eventually Maria says, just go. What do you have to lose? Just go and read for them. So I go and I read for Dawn. Maar Gerrit het my so bang gemaak in die audisie. Ek het so geskrik. I started sobbing in this audition, and I don't know what happened, but something happened in this audition, and I got the part. So now I get this part. And and so my part is I have a physical affair with my biological father, whom I don't know is my biological father. I date a drug dealer called Randall, who was written for Randall. I fall pregnant. I have an abortion. I find out it's my biological father, and then I try to commit suicide. This is my first role. And that's when I realized I'm a storyteller. And Gerrit Skoonhoven told me, you're not an accountant, you're an actress. And Johnny Barbazano showed me that I am when I started.
How does one learn the craft? I mean, you had to do it in doing it. You didn't have the space to go and learn first, and go and practice first, and then come back. You had to just do it there and then.
So I'm autodidactic, right? I'm self-taught. So, and there are many schools of thought. For me personally, if I had to go sit at a university and learn the theory of drama, I probably would have been bored. But the fact that I could learn on the floor, and I'm a very practical, as much as I'm left when I'm right brain too, I loved the fact that I could learn from a Hans Stradum. I could learn from a Tertius Menkes. I could learn from a Wilna Snyman, from a Renetti Bryan, from an Ivan Lucas. I could see, my oma grootjie het vir my gesê, steel met die oog, my kind, steel met die oog. And I would sit and I would be a student. When I'm not on the floor, I watch them. I see what they do. And that was the best learning school for me. It was the best way for me to learn acting. And my method and my technique, I have crafted over the years, and it's a very different approach to acting. Almal het hulle eie manier. For my, I channel. I go very deep to the point where I've had to craft methods of debriefing from a character, because acting is it's the worst terminology for what we do, because I believe I become at least, to the point where I come home and my husband says to me, my fiance says to me, so have we debriefed? Have we debriefed? And I go, not yet. I need 3 days if it was a hectic role. So I love the fact that that was the way I learned. And
then how did you get into writing and producing?
Oh, writing and maar wag, let me first tell you. And then Henry Moe got me on stage properly to do this one-woman show. And I'm not theater trained. I did a pantomime, and I did one show for Mike van Graan. And then Henry Moe calls me, says, I want you to do this one-woman show. I go, are you out of your mind? On what? Sex slave. I'm like, you are cooked, Henry. Are you mad? He goes, Kim, you can. I said, no, dude, I'm sorry. So Henry Moe was a good friend of Randall's as well, and a director on Sewende Laan. He says, Kim, I need someone with your kind of shit to tell the story. And so I did. And Ruda, it was one of the most cathartic pieces of work I have ever done in my life. I carried that woman with me for months, because I believe when you are telling a story as true as that, you are tapping into a timeline, because it's still happening as you are telling it. You are tapping into a frequency of truth. And there were times when I felt I had out-of-body experiences during that show, where I was no longer in charge. I was gone. Kim was gone. And at the end of that run, it was when you came to watch it, I had to say goodbye to that person. I had to say to her, I have to leave you behind, because I can't keep you with me. It's too heavy. So acting for me is a very sacred act. There's nothing click, click, flash, and glamorous about it for me. It's a very sacred thing for me. Writing and producing, I've always written. And I think my big work came when I moved down to Cape Town, and I was challenged. I was commissioned to write a piece on the Castle of Good Hope. And they gave us beautiful, beautiful money to put a beautiful piece together. And I had the freedom to put a cast together and pay people properly, which was great. But I wanted to write this piece myself. And so I started a process of 3 months sitting with historians and linguists. And I would fly in on no. So I was still living in Cape Town at the time. And it was cathartic to the point where I had access to archival materials and pieces of history that I didn't know about. I went through so many different emotions over those 3 months, from being very angry, inherent anger, old anger, because I'm everything. I'm Khoisan, I'm French, I'm African, I'm Asian, I'm all of it. So I had this. Ek was kwaad. I was angry at what happened, what really occurred here on this piece of land. And I wrote, and it took a long time to write this piece. It took me a very long time, But I honestly believe, I mean, I would wake up at 3 in the morning with voices in my head. Dan moet ek nou skryf. I have no choice. I was living in Musenberg at the time. Then I need to start writing. And I was writing with a guy called Bradley von Sitters. He's got his PhD in linguistics. He's from Lavendale. And it is the thing I'm most scared of, showing people what I've written. And I gave him my first monologue. It's actually a soliloquy, but it's about 3 pages long. And it's on a character called Makai. He's Khoisan. And I gave it to him. At this stage, I had done no research. I had one conversation with Bradley. I said to him, this is where I want to pitch this. This piece is actually one long poem. That's what I want it to be. From the Khoisan to the Dutch soldier to Marie to Krotua. It's very personal. The skeleton is the history, but everything is very personal from personal perspectives. So I gave him this piece of paper and he started reading it. And he says to me, what are your references? Where did you get the information? And I said to him, no, my brother, I've not done the research yet. My research begins with you now. And there were pieces of information in this thing that, wat die stemmetjies nou vir my gesê het, that was so accurate. He says to me, are you sure you didn't read? I said, no, Bradley, I got up at 3 and I wrote this. And he said to me, you're my sister. You're taking this to another level. I said to my friend, I'm telling you now, I am not writing this. I am just a vessel here. And so started a beautiful process, not just for me, but for the 10 actors that I cast. I would fly in on a Friday night. I moved back to Joburg, fly in on a Friday night. At about 11, I would get to the castle. I had military access. And then I would start walking around those walls because I needed to hear what they wanted to say. So I know it sounds very woo, but it happened. And it was a very moving piece, Ruda. It was called Osiyama, just when you thought we were done. Yeah.
I'm afraid I have to move us along because we can't carry on talking for the rest of the day.
Can I just say for the record, that is my proudest piece of work. If I had to go tomorrow, please remember that is my proudest piece of work.
Wonderful, wonderful. And that was another major change moment, of course, because that cast you in a completely different role.
Yes.
Just tell me about Dreamer's Child, how it started and what you're going to do with it now.
Okay, so Dreamer's Child started as an NGO for breaking the silence against child abuse, sexual women and child abuse. So it started with me breaking my silence with you many years ago on Carte Blanche, which was a big change moment. I think I had just gotten married a year after I got married to Rowan. And so it was an NGO where I would go around and do talks with women, with children, schools, different age groups, teachers. And it was about breaking the cycle of the silence, which is the great perpetuator of this evil, this ill. Dreamer's Child has now evolved. Dreamer's Child eventually became, when I resuscitated the old theater in Cape Town, it became a production company. And now Dreamer's Child is a fully fledged production company. I'm producing my first full-length feature film with Mnet. So I am employing people now. So it is empowering people now. I'm doing it in collaboration with one of my best friends, Clint Brink, on the Brink Productions. And I was with another company before, Afrikaans, but I dissolved my partnership because I felt it was time that I do this on my own. And I was ready. And Mnet feels I'm ready too. And, you know, Jan du Plessis was the same guy who gave me a shot 20 years ago when my boyfriend was killed and they didn't think I could do the show. And Jan said, give this girl a go. She can do it. I said to them, I can do this. 20 years later, he's doing the same thing. And it's wonderful to see people believe in you still yet. So Dreamer's Child has gone from strength to strength, Ruda. And it's just, yeah. And so
What's your
many
movie?
times,
What's your
the
movie
movie,
about?
the movie's called Barrack Street. It's an action comedy. It's based loosely based on the old police academy idea, but the comedy is obviously far more slick. I myself, Clint and Ricardo Ardenser wrote the screenplay. It was Clint and I, it was our idea, and then we brought Ricardo in to head write for us. But it's comedy. It's set in Cape Town, and it's about a rehabilitation camp for defected and delinquent police officers, and, and it's funny, and I'm so proud of it. It's 4 years in the process now, and Mnet came. They were like, we want. So that's what I'm busy with now. I'm learning how to produce. I know everything about CIPC and NAVF. You need to any answers you ask me. So it's hard work, but I love being the student. I love being the student. Yeah.
Kim, we have talked a lot about personal stuff as well,
Yes.
but to focus more on that, after that very traumatic experiences as a child, and then running away from home and having to make that a complete break, you decided you wanted to reconnect. Why?
Um, Ruda, one reason, two reasons. One was my brother has two kids, a little girl who is my doppelganger, Leah, very spirited child. My mom always says she is me as a kid, and a little boy. And I needed to make my presence known in the family again. I needed to make sure that nothing happens to them. Regardless if anyone believes me or doesn't believe me, I didn't really care at this stage. I don't care. I needed my presence to be known. And it was very scary because I hadn't seen my stepdad in a long time, 17 years, I think, at the time. And it was one of the most profound experiences. I think I needed my peace back. I needed peace for the first time. And I'd been in and out of therapy since I left home. I've been very actively engaged in my process. I've been very vocal about it. Over the years, I've become more sensitive about the story because I now know it doesn't just affect me, it affects my brother, it affects everyone, and the kids are growing up. I've said my piece, now I need to do the work. And I went home after 17 years, Ruda, and I was very scared. I almost turned around, and because that childlike fear crept back into me as a 38-year-old. It was bang. I was 37. And as we pulled into our driveway, my mom didn't know I was coming. My stepdad had been diagnosed with cancer. He went into remission, it came back. So he was not well. And I walked into that house, Ruda, as an adult for the first time. And everything looked small. The room looked small. The furniture looked small. And it was so symbolic of what was really happening. Everything had become small.
Yes.
Because I had been dealing with it. I was a giant now. I was not the scared little girl anymore. And I saw my mom, and I greeted my mom, and I greeted my brother. My brother knew I was coming. And it was important for my brother too, because he'd been in the middle all this time, very loyal to me, loves his dad. Can't imagine what that must have been like for him. And I didn't know what my approach would be. I didn't even know what I would say I didn't know what I would even say. Mr. Nicholas, Desmond, Dada. I used to call him Dada because for the first part of my childhood, I loved this person. He was my dad. I thought he loved me. He was a great dad. Besides for this other split part of his personality, this darkness that came out that night. And it was the most profound thing. I walked into that room, and this man that I feared for all my life, even up until that moment, was this small little frail man sitting in the bed. And I looked at him and I heard myself, and it was, I'm not religious, but something divine happened in that moment. Something bigger than me happened in that moment. I heard myself go, "Hello, Dada." And he reached out his hands and he started sobbing. And I went around the bed and I sat next to him and I took him in my arms like this. And I held him and he sobbed. And this man was sobbing and wailing and wailing. And I heard myself say, "It's going to be okay." And I truly meant that. I truly meant that. I truly meant that. I truly meant that. And he sat back and he said, "Did it have to be so ugly?" And I said, "Listen, I am here to give you peace. I'm here to give myself peace. I'm letting it go. I'm letting you go. I'm letting myself go here. But do not for 1 minute think that what happened to me didn't happen, because I am the person sitting here fighting for normality every single day of my life. So yeah, it did happen, but I forgive you and it's all good." And I put myself to the test. I thought, did I just do this for my brother? Every time he went for chemo, I would call him to see how he was. "How are you feeling? Are you okay, Dada? I'm sorry you're not so lekker." When he died, I just missed his death. I was flying. I broke my hand on the car console and I mourned him. And Ruda, I found in my short little lifespan, at the age of 37, I found profound forgiveness. I had really forgiven this man. I never thought it was possible. I really didn't. I really didn't. But it was the most beautiful thing I could have given myself. And 3 months later, he was dead. He was gone. And I got my family back, got my mom back, I got my brother back. It was, yeah, it's been an incredible journey.
Kimmy, and since then, just one last thing that I can't let you go without.
Yes.
Since then, you've met Murray, who is now really it sounds as if he's your rock, your strength. How did that happen and what does it mean?
So Maz and I met many years ago. I was still married. He was still married. We were all friends, you know. Maz and I did a play together. We always got on really well. He's this big Scotsman. He's rude. He's funny. He's got the best sense of humor. Always laughed around him. When I came back from Cape Town, I got divorced. A year later, I think he got divorced. I moved down to Cape Town for 5 years. I came back 2016. Maz and friends called me for my birthday, and we said we were going to hook up for drinks. That same week, I bump into him at a garage, and we're like, "Okay, cool. Listen, dude, let's do this. Let's go to the gin joint in Parkhurst." We sat until about 3:30 that morning, just catching up. We always had a great rapport. And about a week later, every day he called. He was on golf tour with his friends. I'm like, why is this bro calling me when he's on golf tour with his friends? I'm like, something is up here. And we went on a lunch date I knew he was hungover. He came back from Durban. I said, "You said you're taking me for lunch." September 11th, cataclysmic day. And that day I said, "Listen, is something up?" He said, "Something's definitely up." I said, "I think this is a bad idea. We have a lot of friends in common, including my ex-husband, and I'm still very close with her. We're all very good friends. Lots of love still there. So this is a bad idea. It's not going to be a fling. If it's going to happen, it's going to be epic. So I don't think we are ready for that. And then he kissed me. And then we got lacquer tipsy that night. He said, you shouldn't drive home. You should stay over. And I stayed over and I never left. He didn't say for how long. And then I met his mom, who was just the most profound woman I've ever met. I met his mom years before I met him. She's from Manchester, midwife, ran the Amdram Society, unforgettable human being, Margaret Todd. And she was the first woman who, I was the first woman that she ever, he said to me, you know, my mom is cold. She's not tactile. She doesn't hug. She doesn't. His mother used to kiss me on the mouth. She used to say, I love you, my girl. He goes, what? And a year later, she passed away. I think she was ready to go because she knew he was going to be okay. And a year later, he proposed. And he's my Viking. This man has seen the worst of me, and he's still here. He makes me laugh. At that, I pee in my pants. No, but like literally pee in my pants. Like I have to run. He's the most loyal human being. And I sometimes feel like I don't deserve this because it's so easy to go there. But I do. We've created the most beautiful home. And he's right there. He's got me. He's got me.
Kimmy, that's a very, very happy note on which to say goodbye. Thank you so much for sharing time and sharing your stories, and all of the very best. We'll be looking out for that movie.
Thank you so much, Ruda. Man, I just love talking to you. You always just know when to show up. I really do. I really love talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And to everyone who watched this, go away, have a happy, joyful life.